I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We will now call the meeting June 20th, 2019 board meeting to order. Roll call shows everyone is here except for Dan and Peter, who were excused. Are there any agenda changes? If none, we will go on to 4, consent agenda. June 6, 2019, regular board meeting minutes. B is licenses and permits. Renewal operator licenses as presented. Operator licenses are 1 through 16, and operator licenses are 1 through 7. Temporary Class B as presented. Combination Class A and Class A fermented malt beverage liquor licenses, and that is as presented. Change of agent for Quick Trip. D is operator licenses recommended for denial by the police department. And E is presentation of accounts and other claims against the village, and the voucher list is in the packet. Are there any questions?
I'll make a motion to approve consent agenda.
Do I hear a second?
As an explanation here, I guess, and sorry to interrupt, but just so that there's a record, on D, for the denial of the operator's licenses, those were for false applications. They're incomplete. They didn't list everything that the form told them they should. And not the form actually says that that can be a reason for denial, and the denial of those 2 licenses would be consistent with our policy. Just as an explanation.
Can they reapply, or is that for
They
a
could.
certain length of time? Okay. I'll second the motion to approve the consent agenda.
Roll call.
Aye.
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 Motion carried. 5 is pre-registered citizens to be heard, and there are none. 6, committee reports. There is nothing under committee reports. 7, unfinished business from previous meetings, and there is none. 8, new business. A, R-9-19, compliance maintenance resolution.
I'll take that one. I emailed the CMAR out to you guys because it's about 26 pages and I didn't want to print it up for everybody and present it at the meeting at the last minute. So I emailed it out to you. Basically, the purpose of the CMAR is to evaluate the wastewater treatment system for problems or deficiencies, management, operation, and maintenance activities. It also helps promote owner awareness, responsibility for wastewater collection and other treatment needs. It also assesses system performance and wastewater maintenance activities, but most of all, it evaluates our compliance with our wastewater treatment plant permit. So, and that's the biggie. If you look at it, was there any questions? I mean, nobody reached out to me, but basically the wastewater plant's running really well. No significant issues. We do have some I&I issues, that's on the collection system. We're working on that. One basement backup last year, and that was more mechanical in nature than actual deficiency with the system. Other than that, the wastewater plant's operating really well. The operators are doing a good job. I don't know if there's any questions you have.
You can clarify I&I for some of these people.
Oh, I&I for like Jim. I&I is infiltration and inflow.
Okay.
Rainwater, sump pumps, that kind of stuff. It's a significant well, like most wastewater plants, a significant source of clean water. You don't wanna treat clean water, that's just extra water you gotta pump, extra water you gotta aerate, so it's a waste of time treating clean water.
That infiltration usually comes in high water events, water, rain. Anytime you don't have secure manhole covers, it will find its way into the system. Illegal hookups with sump pump connections, that's why municipalities look for them. So anytime you're taking stormwater and you're putting it into the sanitary sewer, we have to treat that water. Whereas it should be going into the creek bed. So it overloads the systems, so you try to minimize your I&I.
Most of our I&I in this community comes from old laterals, clay, what they call vitrified clay pipe. It's just a clay pipe shoved together, and a lot of it's fractured, separated, longitudinal cracks, and it's all over in our older communities here in town. One of the issues we face in the future is when the bypass finally is completed, we're gonna go back on Main Street and replace the laterals. We have a lot of I&I along Main Street, basically from Dairy Queen back down to the corner. We never did any lateral work through there. We just did the main and what they call the risers. That's where it goes up and then it goes back. We get a lot of I&I down Main Street, and we get a lot of I&I around the high school. As you know, the water table's high. We're in our third or fourth year of above normal rainfall. So that's something we're looking at, and it's not gonna be an overnight fix. In most communities, it takes time. So, but operationally, the plant we shouldn't have to do anything with the plant for another 5-10 years. It's running fine. It's handling everything we can throw in it. We did get notice that our wastewater permit is due next year. We have to submit the application by the end of the year. So I started the process for our new application for the wastewater plant. So we'll be completing that over the next month or two, and then we'll see what the new DNR and the EPA requirements for phosphorus discharges how that'll affect us. Ideally, it would be nice to have enough in the bank that if we had to spend $500,000 on a piece of equipment to further clean the water, that we could just pay cash for it. So, like I said, we're not in bad shape, and I don't think the rules are going to be too stringent that we can't meet it in the future. Again, everything we're in, we still need to work outside the gate. Inside the gate's pretty good shape. When I say gate around the wastewater plant. We still have some old collection system in there, and we've been working every year for the last few years trying to get stuff done, and it's just going to take time. You know, we went 40. You know, some of the water sewer mains we have are from the 40s, and they're old and they need to be replaced. Unfortunately, it's very expensive. So.
I got a question, Carl. And maybe I missed something along the way, but did the town of Clayton ever start bringing waste to the wastewater treatment plant? Is this just village, or is this including that as well?
The CMAR or CMAR? No, well, the Clayton, we still have the agreement in place with them. They're still working through their needs,
Okay.
how they're gonna, we're still their backup in case they need to come here.
But they've never,
No.
no, okay,
No.
I was just kinda curious to see if that changed any of these numbers, or,
No, not as far as I know. And it's been approved by the DNR for them to bring it here.
okay.
And we received payment, didn't we? Correct.
Yeah.
Alright, I was just
Yeah.
kinda curious to see if the numbers.
So I think we're into deep into the second year of a 5-year agreement with them to take that.
Okay.
Like I said, they have their own issues they're working through as far as what they're gonna have to do. But all in all, the wastewater plant's running pretty good, really good. So, it is a 10-year mark since we built it. We've got another 10 years to pay it off. So we're gonna have high rates for another 10 years. So,
Okay.
but structurally, that wastewater plant should be good for another 50 years. So just long term, we're gonna be fine. I know we got high rates right now, with some of the highest in the valley, but it's gonna be affecting other people in other towns when they get their permits and stuff like that, so.
So I read through the report, 26 pages of it. Yeah. The couple of things I saw, the general gist I got was that it looks like we're running somewhere 50 to 60% capacity on
Solids,
so
BOD.
basically across the board.
Yeah.
And then the other thing was I can't remember the name of the fund that we have for that. That would, but it looks like it's still about $15,000–$16,000 from being fully funded.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah, that's the equipment replacement fund.
Okay,
What happened is last year, we made a cash outlay for, the screw press above and beyond the loan we took out. And we replaced some equipment again, and we were at the 10-year mark. We had some equipment that we put in that just made it about 10 years, and we had to spend quite a chunk of money getting it replaced, but, the guys do a pretty good job of staying on top of maintenance, so, like I said, the only long-term big expense I see, aside from, you know, a few valves and pumps here and there, is what we're gonna do regarding the phosphorus rules, the new, total maximum discharge levels for the Fox Wolf watershed. So we may have to buy another piece of equipment and put it down at the end of the line. After we're done treating the water, we might have to treat it further by filtering it, so.
okay. And then as far as the, replacing all the laterals, and then some of the aging stuff, do you have like a laid out,
Yeah.
long-term,
Yeah.
to get through it?
Yeah, I've got utilities scheduled out for about 10 years,
Okay,
so.
all right.
It's in the CIP. Did you have a copy of that? Did we ever get you a copy of the CIP since you came on board?
Didn't tell you what it is, so I couldn't tell
No,
you.
it's a
I'm
capital
gonna assume
improvement.
no.
Capital improvement plan.
I'll make sure and get that out to you too, so.
That's all I had other. Looks like you got good grades on everything, otherwise.
Yeah.
It was a nice,
And-
exciting read.
The DNR, let's say it, but the DNR likes us, that, we earn that, they're pretty good to us, we're one of the places they can trust, and they don't come in and they don't harass us, cause they know we do a great job, so. And, you know, 30 years ago, that was a different story, but today, they like us, so. No, everything's going good down there. Just continue to do maintenance outside the fence, basically, replacing old tired mains, upgrading lift stations when we get a chance. That's about it. Do something about I&I. But we're not the only ones in that boat, so. Again, I'll be looking for approval of the resolution R-9-19, so I can get that submitted.
I can make a motion to approve R-9-19, as submitted here.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. B is discussion on ordinance 1.19, 1B, and state statute 755.02.
And I can take that. Our current ordinance provides for a 2-year term for municipal judge. Excuse me. State statute provides for 4 years, and the elections have been run for 4 years, 4-year terms. So we are consistent with state law, but our ordinance is out of date. If we wanted to go to something less than 4, we can. We can go anywhere between 2 and 4 years if we passed a charter ordinance. But that would be a, you know, it's not a normal ordinance, there's a procedure to go through. So if this board was inclined to do something other than the 4-year term, you know, I need direction and we could do that, but I would, you know, we've been running on the 4-year term anyway. Absent, you know, any problem, I think we just stay with that. So then it's just a matter of correcting our ordinance and changing it to 4 years.
Does anyone have any questions?
So I'm confused. We've been doing 4 years, but our ordinance says 2? Is
Yep.
that what you're saying?
Yes, you know, again, our ordinances, the last change in that ordinance was '89.
Okay,
And we have a number of things in our ordinances, they're so old that when
Okay.
the laws have changed, we haven't changed our
We
ordinances with them.
just haven't gone back to, okay.
Yeah, and so when we catch them, we correct them. It's, you know, it's housekeeping matter.
So
That's
this
all
is,
it is, unless you really said, no, I think municipal judge should be for a shorter term. You know, if you think 4 years is too long, we can do something. It's a minimum of 2, maximum of 4. And you would just direct us to, you know, come up with that term, and then we would draft this charter ordinance and, you know, enact it in the proper procedure.
Is there any benefit to go to 2-year versus 4?
Well, you know, 4 is better from Jane's standpoint, right, and
With the
costs,
election?
you know, right.
And there hasn't been a whole lot of people that have run for that position, so
No.
it's not like if I remember right, is this Norb's like third term?
Yeah, at
Second?
least, yeah, it's at least his
Yeah.
third.
So it's
Well-
not a big turnover.
I heard that he wasn't really keen on running this last time, but nobody else ran, so he
Right.
ran.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So one of the other possible options with the 2-year is that you might be able to attract somebody else to try to run.
Right.
Since it's only 2 years
Yeah.
instead of a 4-year obligation.
But now, when he was elected though, he's elected for that 4 years. It wouldn't change for another?
No.
No.
No, I mean, if we changed it now, he'll finish
grandfathered.
out the 4.
He's still in for the 4
It would
years.
just be for the next election.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay.
How long have we been doing 4 years?
Oh, it's been a while.
Since the state changed it, isn't it? Didn't they change that?
Yeah.
The state did,
Mhm.
yeah, so then
But
that's
I
how
don't-
we
I'm not
just
sure
went
the year.
along with
okay.
it.
Christine, did you have any input?
2009.
The only thing that I can say,
2009, Nathan said.
Okay, 2000, thank you.
Oh,
the only
okay.
thing that I can, share with you is that, say for instance, you get a judge, and we have the 4-year, and he's got his way of doing things, and it may be dismissing a lot of citations, or whatever, then you're stuck with him for 4 years too. So, again, if you're looking to put somebody in that seat, 4 years is, then you at least got somebody for 4 years, but 2 years might look more attractive to somebody else.
Yeah.
So, I know that there's some agencies that have some judges out there that they wish they had the 2-year term.
How complicated is it to do this charter?
No, not that. So, I guess, you know, it sounds like there may be some interest in that, maybe the public safety, would that be the proper committee, probably? If you wanted to kick it around and look at what other people are doing, but that's up to you.
Might be worth checking other
Yeah, I
communities.
think it's worth
Yeah.
looking at. I mean,
Especially
because I think we need to
communities our
find
size and-
somebody to replace he didn't want to run this time, so if he's not gonna run, and then we're gonna have to just find somebody to throw in there for 4 years.
From what I read, they can also be appointed if we so choose to do that. It
Yeah.
doesn't have to be an elected body, it can be an appointment. However, they do have to take the proper protocol and classes.
Yeah, if
So
nobody runs.
if you
that's-
have somebody that you would prefer to put in that role, they can be appointed by the municipal. That's a bigger process to get it a company.
Yeah,
Because with the state here, it says be elected at large, so that must be just something that we have to maybe term it different?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. I don't think we should go down that route. We should make an elected process, you know, I
Yeah.
think we just
Yeah,
gotta be more
kinda like
open
that.
and being, selection and saying, hey, we're actively soliciting for,
I kinda wish Peter was
participation.
here. He sat in that position, didn't he?
No,
No.
he
No.
ran.
He ran, but
He
he didn't
ran
sit in
for
it.
trustee and for judge. He
Okay.
won both of them.
Oh, and then he had to
And
pick
he had
one?
to choose
Okay.
which one, and he chose trustee.
Okay,
So then we ended up with Norb coming back in, and then we had to have an election the next year.
okay.
And then, so it was, I know someone ran against Norb at least once.
Yeah, I talked to somebody who did.
Yeah, and so I know there was some other interest at that time, so I don't know if it's something, do we wanna look into it?
It was a voting
See how
and
many
share.
other communities are doing 2-year, or,
I think it's
and
something
bring
worth
this
looking at.
back
I think it's
for
a be a good,
approval?
Yeah,
good committee.
yeah, I think we could. set
If
up
somebody
a
did
public
want to be on for 4 years, they could run again.
Yeah,
you know?
I mean,
And
we
there's no
do.
term limit, correct? I mean, they could keep running.
Oh, yeah, you can keep running.
They can
It's just
keep
you have
running.
to be on
It's
the
no different than a
ballot every 2
trustee.
years or whatever.
Yeah.
Right.
Trustee position, you can just keep running, you know.
Lawyers make really good judges, Bob.
There you go, there's a new job.
Yeah, I'm just saying.
Just saying.
Every 3 municipalities I've worked for has been former lawyers.
Did you
fine.
court commissioner yet?
No, I'm not
Lathrop used
court,
to do
Lathrop
that,
is
yeah.
court
Yeah,
commissioner.
Lathrop, Perry does that too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think, who was before Norb Cheney? It wasn't Dick Shawn, right? Was there somebody in between them?
No, it was.
No.
That was it?
Yeah.
It was
So we've had,
Dick
so we
Schwan.
only had 2 municipal judges then for
Yes.
the entire time for municipal court.
Yeah,
Wow.
That's
Yes.
incredible,
Wow.
yeah,
yeah.
so, you know, even,
Mm.
ex-police officers that are retired or
Yeah.
anything like
Yeah.
that can run for judge, or, you know. Or
So
like
this
you
is
say,
just-
someone who goes through the schooling,
Sure.
you know, so I don't know.
This is just discussion, so are you looking for some direction as to bring it back as?
I think if you want to put it through a committee agenda, that would be the appropriate action on this. Will that be the
Would we
public
do
safety?
public
I think
safety
that
or
would be the
committee of the
appropriate.
whole?
Okay.
I think so.
Public safety?
Public safety, I think, would be more appropriate. Okay.
Because all your stuff goes through public safety, right? Yeah.
And rephrase or refresh me, who is now the chair of public safety? Because it was Peter, okay.
I do believe, this guy right here, Jim, is the head,
Okay.
so he would have to count, we will have to.
Well, we have
call
4
the
years,
meeting.
Jim, so Norm is good. Norm just got elected, so
Yeah.
we got
Yeah,
4 years to
no
make
rush
our.
on that.
Yeah, we
okay.
have time.
So I'll bring that back up
Okay,
about a year from now. We'll talk about it. No, I'm just kidding. We'll get it taken care of.
okay.
All right. Then C is ordinance 13-19, temporary operator license fees.
This was, well, when people apply for a temporary operator license, we do get charged a $7 investigation fee through the police department. And right now, there is no fee attached to the temporary operator's license. So we were just proposing to make it $10 fee for temporary operator licenses. Those are licenses like when the Civic Association has an event, or like for the temporary Class B licenses, they have temporary bartenders, operators. And like I said, there's no fee attached to that, so we're basically losing money on every application.
How
So,
many do you do in a year, Jane? Do you have any idea?
how many I do?
Yeah.
Ooh, not that many.
The only concern I have is it's almost always for nonprofits, right? And I mean, it's so hard to make money as a nonprofit anyway. So that, I just wanted to offer that as my concern, that, I know it's only $10, but,
We get charged $7 from the state. So we get, for everyone that we run through to do a background or criminal history on them, we get a bill from the state for $7.
and so is it 7 for you and 7 for you then, Jane? So 4?
No, no, seven.
Just
Seven
pass,
total.
They do the background checks,
Yeah.
yes.
So they get charged the 7 and then we pay it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It becomes quite, a lot after a while.
Yeah. The bigger discussion that Jane and I had is that we're hoping that some of these people that continually take out a temporary permit take the time to go online, because everything's online now for operator's license, to actually take the class and get a permanent license. It's the same people that renew it and do it every year for a temporary license, where they take the initiative to just take that class and enroll themselves, and then they can renew their bartender's license. It would save her a lot of issues. We've also talked today about potentially changing the renewal process from a 1-year application to a bartender license to a 2, because it's become a lot of paperwork and burdensome, and a lot of municipalities that I've worked for in the past do a 2-year renewal, not on the APCO liquor license, but on the bartender license. A lot of them drop out, you know, and it's on you to renew. So, you know, a lot of that we already made notes for next year to look at changes to the physical system.
So is that kind of why you're looking at, like, I noticed that too, like, it says on the original ordinance, no person may hold more than 1 license of this kind per year. And then the updated one, it says no person may hold no more than 2 licenses of this kind per year, so that they
Right.
could have a
The state-
permanent, and
The state changed that.
the state changed that.
The state made it so they can have 2 licenses.
Okay.
At that point, Julie, if you're gonna pull 2 temporary licenses in there, you might as well go get your regular
Yeah,
license.
exactly.
Yeah. So, again, just an update of what we've currently had, kind of bring it into the new times here. But I agree with what you say, Pat, but anytime we can do away with an expenditure and cover it with a revenue, we have to look at that. You know, 10 of these is $70. You know, that's, I guess, you know, we had north of 10 this year of temporaries. Every time there's a permit, there's probably 5 per event. So we might be creeping up on 50 of these in a year, so that's $350.
And it is generally, and I get where you're going, Pat, it's a lot of the not-for-profits, and it's always it seems the same individuals. I mean, if we could somehow get them to do their state operator's license, that would be.
Well, and then they're paying for that, I'm assuming. I don't know
I
how
don't
much
know.
it is.
$20.
They pay 20? Okay.
Okay, yeah.
And you can go on to any technical college, pretty much offers it online. You used to have to sit through hours of class. It's not that way anymore. It's literally, you can turn the computer on, let it play for 2 hours, and make sure you listen to 2 hours, and you take a test at the end of 20 questions. And it's pretty much, you can put your name on number 1, you get one of the questions. They'll ask you blood alcohol content. Fairly simple test to become an operator. So,
If it's a 2-year, that's a wash. I mean, it's $20 to do the
Exactly.
2 years
Yeah.
one time
Yeah.
versus
yeah,
10 each year.
absolutely.
I'll make a motion to approve O.13.19 changes to the new ordinance.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carried.
Me,
What?
I oppose.
Oh, you opposed?
Yep.
Okay, we have one opposed. Motion carried. Okay, then D is O-14-19, amending refunds for operator's license.
That was another one that came up because right now our ordinance states that they will get a refund if their operator's license is denied. And so we changed that to no fee shall be refunded for the operator's license.
So you're gonna pay for the background check, and if they fail,
Right,
then
right,
you still have to pay for it, but
Yes.
but they're
They'll
not
not be
paying.
refunded, so we took a look at that and
Is that even really, I mean, I don't have a problem with that, but is it even an issue that a lot of them get denied?
we said 2.
Two of them? Okay.
Yeah.
Might motivate them to fill out the paperwork.
Well, I mean,
properly.
they should pick the right people. I mean, you know, if you're not getting it, okay.
But those were denied because their paperwork wasn't complete, right? So it
That's
might
correct.
force them to pay attention and do the paperwork so that you're not processing it twice or 3
Right.
or 4 times.
That's correct too.
Because there's a cost to that too.
Yeah.
I guess I was just a little surprised when I was reading, when we found this, that they could be refunded. I was surprised by that. I hadn't seen that before.
Yeah, because there again, it's a loss to the village.
And you know, back when that was enacted, I don't know if we were doing background checks.
Would there be any other circumstance
Right.
that,
Probably not.
would there be, and other than denial, would there be any other circumstance, like they could we add some wording in there unless, you know, approved by the board? I mean, could there be a situation where somebody applies and then the event gets canceled, and then they call the village and say, hey, I know you started this process. I mean, could we, because I'm just thinking, things get canceled and things happen.
But these aren't the temporary ones. These are the regular
Regular.
operators.
Oh, I'm
Operators.
thinking temporary.
Yeah.
Okay,
sorry.
and then,
Right.
okay,
That's a
so,
Okay.
separate category.
and the expense, is the
$10.
the background check?
Yeah,
Well, it's a $25 fee for the operator's license and then a $7 investigation fee. So it's a total of $32.
Okay, the $25 fee is for
The bartender's license,
the bartender's license.
not including the investigation fee.
Okay.
So it's passed through.
So, in the case like what we have here
The-
today, where it was
just in
incomplete
case.
paperwork,
Right, we
um,
did charge
with
somewhere.
this, they would have to,
We won.
We
they
did
couldn't
charge
correct
for it.
correct and resubmit the paperwork, even though would we have to pay everything again?
Yes.
yes,
We have to pay the $25 and the $7 again?
yes.
Okay, they can't just correct it and resubmit within a time frame, no?
No.
Okay.
No. And, yeah. The application is really straightforward,
Okay,
and, you know, it's not something that anybody can just, you know, not be complete, not knowing, let's put it that way.
okay.
So that's what happens here.
It's basically, it's requesting, a lot of how we approve or deny a liquor license is on crimes concerning alcohol and drugs. And then we go through a flow chart and we answer yes or no to them. In these two cases, there was missing information, whether it be drugs or alcohol, and one of them was it was a pending. So and it says, the next box over says, is it pending, dismissed, convicted? I believe are the 3 words that it says in there, yeah. So just.
So we're not talking about
hopefully-
incomplete, we're talking about inaccurate.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, there's a big difference.
There
Right.
is.
Incomplete,
Yes.
I can get, inaccurate, yeah,
Right.
that's, okay.
Yeah.
I
To me,
understand
it's
that.
like, what are you hiding?
Yes, okay.
Why are you, it's asking, it specifically says alcohol or drugs.
Yes.
And if you have an OWI and you're not putting OWI on there, and it was, 4 years ago, you couldn't have forgot about that.
You know, we even had some that would fill it out and didn't know the exact date, and we said that's okay.
That's okay,
you know.
right.
But
We
you
were just-
put down that you did have an OWI, and then it was fine, because then that did get brought up by the police department and everything was okay. So, I mean, it is pretty self-sufficient that you stress to them, make sure you fill this out correctly when they're filling it out, so.
And the ones that are filled out correctly, they're using instead of Robert, they're putting Rob or Bob, and then their date of birth doesn't look like what it's supposed to look like, so we're struggling trying to find that too. So, just some of the things that we're seeing on the applications,
Yeah, the application says on it that they certify that all the facts in there are true. So it's pretty straightforward, Jim. Yeah.
So you're looking for a motion I'll make a motion to approve O-14-19 amending refunds for operator's license.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. E is O-15-19, removal of ordinance 12.03 4B.
And this is basically to match what the state statutes read. The state has taken away the application to be notarized, so we just wanted our ordinance to match what that says. And then there was some spelling errors. I gave you all a copy with the red. So basically, we just wanted that taken, that they don't need to be notarized any longer.
It still says to be notarized.
Well, the heading's in there, but the body's taken out. That's
Right.
it, right?
Right,
That's the
exactly.
intent.
Yes.
Yeah, so there, if you look at our revised ordinance, there should be no requirement for notarization. I guess you could remove the heading as well.
Yeah,
Right.
I would-
That's
if I was a
confusing.
layman reading this, it says application to be notarized, I
Yes.
would assume it still needs to be
Yeah,
notarized.
so that'd be an appropriate
Right.
amendment. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so why don't we make that change? as Jim said. And you can just put in there, repeal, as
Okay.
for the whole.
Is this how the state has it worded? I mean,
Wait, they used to, it used to be a notarized,
Okay.
but they've done away with
yep,
that.
I agree.
In our
You
ordinance.
took this right from the statute, right? Other
What,
than,
this,
yes,
from the state?
yeah.
No, the state removed it completely. There
So we
is
should
nothing in
remove
there.
Right, right.
But it used to
But
be,
I-
that's where it
It
came
used
from.
to be.
Okay.
Correct.
Yeah.
Are there any other questions? Do we have a motion with the changes?
I'll move to approve O-15-19 with the application be notarized, removed or repealed or noted in there that it isn't required.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. F is R-10-19, credit card user agreement.
And this was just something that I learned at the Treasurers Institute, that we should have a credit card user agreement. For, right now, all the department heads have a credit card issued to them in their name. And this is just a safeguard to protect basically the village, and Bob has looked it over and we've made corrections, and so I just wanted to bring this to your attention that we should have that on file.
There's a spelling error on the top. It says agreement and agreement. I don't know if we need to change that.
On the first line.
User agreement.
Not in mine.
No, mine either.
John Ryan, right here.
Very top.
Oh, in the actual.
Just in the
In the ordinance.
in the ordinance. not in the-
ordinance.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
okay.
Yep.
That was my out. That was my out. You took it away now. Can't afford that.
No one has any questions, I'll make a motion to approve R-10-19 with the resolution approving the purchase credit card agreement, noting that we need to just update the spelling error.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. G, post-audit financial discussion and handouts.
All right, first things first, Bob, you don't have a copy of this, and I apologize for that. These were all in your mailboxes, so I believe Jane would have distributed it. This is a popular annual financial report. So I give credit where credit is due. This is a report that I have built in all of my former assistant roles for my administrators that I worked under. Essentially, I gave Nathan the backbone to this report, and he put it together. So thank you, sir, for doing that. Much appreciated. So essentially, what that does is take the Trevor Rose audit, which we had at our last meeting, which is more reading than any of you would probably care to do. And what it does is it takes that 100-page manual here and it puts it into 8 pages of very user-friendly, popular reporting that we make available for transparency to the village. It's compiled. It's the stuff that people really want to see. Put in nice, easy-to-read graphs, charts, and information based. Basically, where your money is going and how it's taxed and how we spend it. That has already been distributed to the library, and it's on our website with links. So, if there's any discussion on that, I would direct your question to Mr. Nathan on this one. There's nothing to approve in this section, you guys. It's just this is for your information purposes here.
Are there any questions?
And that is obviously your copy. And you feel free, if anybody has questions or if you're ever asked as trustees, we would print a copy for anybody at their request at the village hall. So
Where is this on the website, so if somebody is asking?
it's a link to the administration tab, correct?
Yep, go to departments, administrator. You can either go to finance and budget from the administrator's link or click into administrator and then find it through his menu. It should have a link to the comp plan and the financial budget/budget. And
Correct.
it goes to last year's CAFR, this year's CAFR, and this year's PAFR.
This is also, as the CAFR, this is also available. So if they wanted to read it in full, they have that option as well.
Okay,
So they can see this or they can see the condensed version.
thank you.
So that is something we'll produce every year. It's just, it's a courtesy to our taxpayers that they see that report. Not sure if that's ever been, the PAFR, I'm not sure if it's ever been done before.
It's never been
No.
done before.
Okay,
Is this something that we could share a link on social media?
Yeah.
it is.
It-
Yeah, it's out there. It's on the webpage. The PAFR.
No, on social media,
Oh, sure.
yeah.
Yeah,
A
very
link,
easily.
because, I mean, no,
Yep.
It's the,
I get where you're going on this on the website, I'm just saying, most people want that information,
Sure.
just,
Mhm.
even just a link.
Yeah, that would help a lot.
Yeah.
Thank you, Nathan.
Thank you.
H is discussion towards acquisition of mini excavator and trailer.
Okay, we have more. Okay, another handout here. You kind of jumped me there, Jeannie. We got a couple more on that first one. So
Oh,
let's go.
on the post.
Yeah, we got more on the other.
It kind of leads into it.
Yeah,
Okay.
leaves that way. You guys don't hand it right around. We should have enough copies for everybody. So this is still technically under G, post-audit financial discussions and handouts, okay? This is something that came in today, so I wanted to bring it to your attention because this has to deal with proposed financial and payments. So the Commonwealth Project, AKA Cottages on Main, last board meeting, we also gave a substantial completion payout to Chris Books with the the project here for the Dollar General store. Exactly the same. This is upon substantial completion of the project, village will deposit an equal amount otherwise due developer into a special fund established for the project. So reaching out to Kevin O'Donnell, who is the representative for the Commonwealth, per the developer's agreement, you can see the money figure on top, that is meant to be split over a 20-year period. So if you do rough math on that, you're looking at 18,000 and change on that 364,582. The term of the TID is 20 years. We've missed 2 years already. So we did not actually know what our average year's payout will be because the assessed value has not been calculated yet. So we were prepared to pay them $20,000 as a rough figure. Either way, we have to pay up to $364,582 over the next 20 years. That being said, I had a conversation with Kevin. They had a note payable. The note that they had in their books was $22,940.17. That's the figure that he gave me, the recommendation, and we don't have to put it to approval because this was already approved in the developer's agreement. I just need to make it aware to the board that I'm gonna put a voucher out for $22,940.17. And basically I'm opening it up for any discussions or clarification if we need it.
Is this that pay-go thing? Am I thinking this?
It's part of it, Julie.
Yeah.
Okay, so now
Yeah.
the pay-go is their tax incentive.
Yes.
So on January 1 of this year, they will be assessed a value.
Okay.
That value will then create a tax. At that time, the taxes will come out. The Commonwealth will see that tax bill. We'll take that tax bill and multiply it by 90%. 90% of what their tax bill is, we have to reimburse back to them. We have to do that for the next 20 years or until the TID is closed out, not to exceed $364,582. So essentially, this is year one's payment, and they make you do that at substantial completion because they want their tax dollars regardless if they're being taxed or not. It's just like an incentive payment. So regardless of what we pay them today, we could pay them half if we wanted to. We would never exceed $364,582.
Okay.
That money is all going to be generated in taxes. It'll never come out. It's just the way the TID is built. It'll never, as we collect it, we're only going to be putting about $2,000 a year from the Commonwealth project into the TID 4 fund. So
Yeah.
we
It's not
we
coming
don't
out.
ever see it, touch it, or feel it. It's just paid in, paid out. So that's a major incentive. Pay-go incentives are the way that municipalities are doing now. They don't have to put out an influx of cash up front. It's easier to pay as you go rather than taking all your assets that you have currently and giving them away for development. It's just, it's the new cool, I would say, for TID structure. That's why the push is on in TID 4 to also have future developments. So Carl also made this sheet, which will go along with this. Okay. This will help you explain more on TID 4. So what Carl did is he put a debt versus revenue spreadsheet together. And it basically tells you if we have no further projects in TID 4, we'll start to make money by 2027. So, but we don't want to sit idle. We're aggressively seeking out people to fill the Parker outlots that have been created, and then also the 3 additional lots that are adjacent to Toy Factory on Highway 15. So if we fill this, then that TID 4 essentially sits idle for the next 20 years. Money comes in, money goes out. We do the financials on it. Jane puts reports in on an annual basis, and then when the TID closes out in 2037, whatever money is in there, we should have used it in TID 5 because TID 5 is a receiver. So the job will be to take all the funds out of this TID prior to it being closed out for other projects in TID 5. That's how it's structured in the village. You don't ever want to leave money in TIDs, because if you have that, if you have money in TIDs when they close out, half of it goes to the general fund, half of it goes to the school district. So it's better spent that we put it in the projects before we give it away. So, and this is clarification. So this one's not really as important. this one is. I just wanna let everybody know that we need to have that voucher. It doesn't have to go to a resolution, like I said, it was already something that was approved with the developer's agreement. So I just wanted to make it very aware to you. It didn't make sense to put it in my administrator's report. I just didn't wanna put it on the voucher list and see a $22,000 payment. I want everybody to be aware that that's going out, that'll go out this coming week here. So is there any questions that I can answer or help out with that? If there's any more discussion?
Looking at the revenues on here, do we, I mean, so it's just estimated the years, like,
Yes.
Okay, so those are just estimates as well.
Yeah, it's not written in stone. That's a pretty good snapshot.
Yeah.
Those revenues could actually accelerate if Dave works his magic with these outlaws and stuff. So it could come faster.
Okay.
It could come
Update,
slower.
and I'm doing my darndest. So essentially what we're doing is 5 lots are being created, adjacent Brookwood Drive. I'm working with developer, AKA Brian Parker and Parker Excavating, so they are technically the developers. With these 5 lots being created, we're trying to seize the lots from them. It doesn't make, and what we're trying to essentially do is not aggravate the people in that Brookwood subdivision, or Parker Heights subdivision, and leave them not developed. Because if they're not developed, it really made no sense to put the road in. So essentially what we're trying to do is get these as developed as soon as possible. So I've been talking with contractors, I've been talking with the Parkers. What we're trying to do is take the land out of the Parkers' hands and put it in developers' hands. Being that it's TID driven, if you do rough math on it, five houses on there, $250,000 a piece, equates to 1.25 million. We're looking at potentially investing $35,000 to get a $1.25 million build out by incentivizing local contractors to buy the lots from Parkers, reduce the lot price, and sell them to contractors to develop them immediately. That way it creates TID money going into TID 4, which will help us offset the other costs that we have, primarily administration. And then the debt or the current debt, it's not, I don't know how deep we are, Carl. Not as deep as we did, like, we didn't have to buy any land. So the initial outlay of costs in TID 4 is nothing compared to TID 3, where you borrow almost $1 million for land. So that's why by 2027, if we don't have any more development, we'll be making money. But the quicker we can turn profit in here, the better. We build out, and as we build into the downtown thoroughfare, we can steal money out of 4 to help pay for 5. Because that's how 5 is set up. It'll
Currently, TID 4 doesn't have this, I know that there's always, people always assume that a TID has all this money sitting in, so you could.
Correct.
Yeah.
Technically, it's backwards, right?
It's, yeah.
It's in the hole.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then one of the negatives of of Commonwealth is it's taking 90% of your money every year. There's not a lot of meat on the bone there that's being generated in that TID. So looking further down the road, TID 4 is not going to be a big money generating machine. It's just not going to be the way that it's structured. Anytime you do pay-go advances like that, you're basically building out. You're setting yourself up for 20 years right now that, just like with TID 2, when it closes out, you have a nice piece of tax base that's going to come into the general fund and it's going to boost your bottom end. So right now, it's not going to make a lot of money. 20 years, in fact, 18 more years, it's going to sit idle. It's going to pay for itself over the course of the time. Anything else?
One thing we didn't touch on was the initial revenue, or the initial funding of these projects over there would be self-funded by the village, saving another 60 grand in interest, what it would take to pay for the infrastructure and the road. So, yeah.
That's kind of coming up.
So you might as well,
next year.
that's coming up later, but the total projected positive balance of 252 doesn't include, $60,000-$70,000 in interest we're saving by self-funding the project.
Okay.
Instead of taking out a loan, what we did with TID 3.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. So we're working on it, and I'm not going to drop it yet, but I had a call today. We're also, I've been, and I don't want it to get the press, but what's happening is we had a call today, and we have been asked to challenge the village is asked to find out what land acquisition costs are for the 2 lots adjacent to the toy factory and the land around the Catholic cemetery for another development, for residential, housing. So we had a developer call today, so that's a project we're gonna start on quickly. So if something, it would be my recommendation. I had a lengthy conversation with him today, the gentleman. It would be structured basically like cottages on Main. It'd be a pay-go as we go. That way, like I said, the way it's set up in TID 4 right now, we're not making a lot of money. But in a couple of years, it's gonna be positive. And as those positive gains come in, we can take everything that's positive and put it into any projects that we have for TID 5, which is downtown, which is gonna be the next, from what this plan says right here, is our next major expenditure. The way Carl and I have gone through the capital improvement plans, we're hoping not have to borrow any money from the village's side until the downtown thoroughfare is reconstructed. And if that plan spills truth and what Carl's doing with the utility, we might be able to pay for 75% of it in cash for the downtown restoration. So, and then that's before grants and loans.
Also, part of that was considered blight.
Correct.
Yeah, that's why
Correct.
it's a receivership.
And that doesn't include what the county might need to contribute because of the detriment to the current highway.
Okay.
They gotta pony up some cash too, so. That leads into the capital improvement, unless we have other questions with this one primarily.
So where is that 22,000 coming from?
It's gonna come from the general fund,
Okay,
and then it gets charged to TID 4. So essentially, the general fund is loaning to TID 4 until TID 4 has enough money to pay back the general fund.
okay,
And we have that for just about every TID.
all right. And
That's part of, so if you would take the book and you go to, page 32, which you guys, oh, you might have it, okay, so long-term advances, it's technically. TID 2 has one, TID 3 has one, water and sewer,
Okay,
you're always moving amongst funds.
okay,
So you can see there's some hefty TID 2 advanced to water and sewer for 270,000. Also, we have $541,000 in advances, long-term advances.
okay, so we're borrowing money to
Correct,
the TID, which is going to the developer,
correct.
and then we replenish that money through
As
their
tax dollars
property
come in and
taxes?
you can build it back into the positive, you're putting it back into the general fund.
Okay, because the property, they still pay the full value of their
Correct.
property tax.
Correct.
Basically, we're just giving them some of it in advance, and then do we get that back?
Correct.
So they say they pay 26,000, we give them 22.
90%. From here on out, it'll be
Yeah.
90% of what they pay.
Yeah, just throwing the numbers out. So we give them 22, they pay 26. How much does that 26 come, does that all come back to us? To the village?
No,
No.
no.
Okay.
What we're gonna advance him here will technically be on a loan yet. Now,
Okay.
next year, we won't have to go into general fund anymore because they're gonna pay that tax again. This should be the last time for Commonwealth that we borrow any money for Commonwealth payments.
It's like, because they don't have any tax basis right
Correct.
now.
We don't have it yet. We don't have
They
that
will
tax
have the
base built up yet.
Assessment next year.
Because
Okay,
the
so
assessment
when
will come
they
in
get
next year.
assessed, and then they
Correct.
pay in the property
Yep.
taxes, the bulk of that property tax comes back to the village, and then we're going to be paying them
Correct,
back. They're gonna pay it, but we're gonna give them back 90%.
correct.
Okay, and land
Yep,
use.
yep.
And then the other properties that you mentioned, how are those zoned?
All TID commercial, or TID,
Oh, well,
highway-
R1 by you.
R1 by you,
Okay, well, no, not the, I'm talking about the one by the canning factory, by the
highway
by the
commercial.
toy factory and
It is
the,
highway commercial, but it's in the TID,
so those are zoned commercial.
correct.
Okay.
No.
No.
Mixed use, there's one.
Mixed use.
Which
What might be helpful too, Jim, is for you to go back, and I could find the date of the meeting, where they created some of these TIDs, and then it went through the joint review board, right?
Correct.
And then included the school district, so anybody that was affected tax-wise, so, school district, Fox Valley Tech, the county, I mean, there were several individuals on that joint review board, but it helps you understand how the TIDs, because it took me forever to understand a TID. right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's assumed, well, there's money in that TID, that'll pay for this. No, it's actually a negative balance.
Well,
Yeah.
long story short,
Yeah.
so when they created TID, they captured the value.
Yeah.
Any new increment or growth or improvements is the taxes that go to a fund.
Okay.
That fund is
Yeah.
used for projects within the TID.
Yeah.
So you can borrow against the TID, and it happens, that's the whole premise of it. Use the growth that might come now or 20 years down the
Yeah.
road to pay for it.
Yeah, I just didn't understand the startup before they had their assessment. Define mixed use.
Mixed use could be residential, commercial, light highway. I'm positive, I'm almost positive it's a mixed use designation. So that it's just, it's an open canvas.
Okay.
Either way, with where that land is associated, we could come to in front of the planning and zoning and ask for a zone change if we have a significant development that is pending.
Okay.
So,
How many properties could fit on that spot?
how many properties? It's 12 acres. The 3 lots combined are 12 acres. So, what the person I spoke to today was a 3-story, high-density, 92 unit with a parking complex, above-ground parking complex. So, and I questioned because with Section 8 and voucher users that we have in some of the Commonwealth, it scores higher on, with the Outagamie County, it scores the median income, 52 to 55% of the residents of that would have to meet at least 60% of the income level, median income level of Outagamie County. So the majority of them will earn about $50,000 a year in order to get in, be able to habitate in that building. So it kind of disqualifies Section 8 users. So that was a major concern because we got to make sure we have good housing and keep up good rental. So more to come. We're, like I said, we're very juvenile on that. But anytime we potentially can add 92 units and water and sewer users and to the tune of $25 million project, we need to investigate it. So, but too early to get on press and get out more than where they want to share right now. So, but we're working on TID 4. Good things are happening. That could be, I mean, a year from now we could be closed out. And then it's just a matter of Jane doing 18 years of, I don't know if she's gonna be here 18 years. Jane, what's your plan? 18 years of financials, you know, to basically monitor it. So this is the big one. I want everybody to be aware of the payment that's going to go out. So that'll go out on a voucher next week. Okay. Any other questions, comments, concerns? Okay. That leaves us, Gene, I have one more on that one. Should I pass a couple of those? So this is Carl's, another one of Carl's magnificent charts that he built out. Yeah. And then I made copies of these available here. This is something that Julie had asked me about today, so I felt that was important as we get into discussions. So I think what would be better here is to talk about the smaller handout first. So what this is a general fund balance policy. And then it's a copy of the resolution that was in 2014. And then it also is a copy of ordinance 3-10, which says if there's temporary investment of funds not immediately used by the village. So that sets us up to talk about this giant spreadsheet that Carl made. We were challenged with the opportunity to self-fund some of the projects that we are currently undertaking, which is Grandview, the Brookwood Drive, taking the $37,500 that we got from the Blackwater Lake District, matching that funds, and then also the acquisition and purchase of a mini excavator. Those are 4 of the major projects that we have listed for the 2019 capital improvement plan. If you take the time to read the descriptions next to it, what Carl's done is he's built out our essentially financial needs and a way that we can pay for this. I don't know, Carl, you want to take it for a little bit?
Yeah, I think we'll start off with Grandview Road. Well, actually, let's start out at the beginning, which would be the total outlay out of our general fund to cover Grandview Road, Brookwood Drive project. As you know, Grandview Road came in and it's probably expected to be a $750,000 project by the time it's all said and done. Brookwood Drive, we've already spent 112 of the 260 or so that were going to be expected outlay there. So immediately out of our general fund to pay for both Grandview Road and all of Brookwood Drive costs, we'd be looking at spending $841,000 out of our savings account. By the time Grandview Road project's completed, we submit the grant paperwork, we'll reimburse that we'll get reimbursed $173,985. So by fall, the hit on our general fund, our savings account, would be $667,000. If you account for revenues from TID 3 and TID 4, by year 4, our outlay will be at $270,000 in our bank account. But in the meantime, I think I pointed out before that we're saving in excess of $172,000 just on Grandview Road if we were to go out and get a GO bond, a general obligation bond. We would save we're saving a significant amount of money self-funding. The auditors, I think one of the things the auditors said is that they pointed out we have a fund balance policy that we were going to maintain. Jane has done a lot of work getting these funds into accounts that pay interest. I think we're getting more interest, I think, in a quarter now than we've gotten in the last 10 years. And we're saving a boatload of money on interest by self-funding. Again, $172,000 estimated through a GO bond calculator just on Grandview Road alone. And probably another 69 or another 70,000 we're saving on Brookwood by self-funding.
That's
significant.
That does not include the money you need to keep bonded to cover the debt. So if you take out a GO bond, you also have to set up a reserve account to ensure that you can pay for that GO bond.
And you have to fund that.
And you have to fund that as well.
So that's another couple $100,000 that somebody would have to pick up the slack on. Okay, so now when I got our general fund expenses, I can show you how, David and I wanted to show you how quick we'll be able to pay ourselves back. Again, by year 4, we'll be down to 270, which is a minuscule amount out of our overall general fund. And out of that 270, we're more than making that up just in interest savings. So now I'll jump into Grandview Road. I'm estimating total project cost at $721,000. Out of that 721, and we're going to get back approximately $109,000 in assessments, $173,000, $174,000 in LRIP grant. TID 3 is on the hook for $367,000. Again, we're funding TID 3's portion of that project. So TID 3 is going to pay back the general fund. And I also have a column called unrecoverable. That's the amount that we don't have a funding source for, other than the fact it's coming out of our pockets. But while it's unrecoverable or shown as unrecoverable, don't forget about the $300,000 we're saving in interest. So, we talked about Brookwood. We expect another $120,000 in outlay for projects. We're expecting $158,000 in assessment. TID 4s, we're loaning TID 4 $148,000 of their share. And we're not going to have any unrecoverable there because that TID's projected 2027, 2028 to go positive. So those years, if we're doing good at that time or towards the end of the bypass project, we should be able to look out and say, hey, this TID's good for 300 grand. Let's put that downtown, and we could loan that money to ourselves, and TID could pay us back, and we could essentially get downtown paid for free. You know, here 3-4 years ago, we weren't sure we'd ever have any money to fix up downtown. So
I'm gonna stop Carl right there. So if you're looking at this chart, okay, so if you take your 2 blue charts on top, the first pie graph or the first bar chart is 721. That's the capital outlay for what we are figuring cash inlay from the village, and then for Grandview, and then you take the 120, 264 for Brookwood. That gives you your first number on the left column, which is your 841, 432. Okay. The money in the TID 3 fund and TID 4 fund are already accounted for, so that's not extra money that we end up having to put in. It's already set aside, it's already in the funds. Okay, I want to be clear, because it's not out of pocket right now for these 2 projects, 841, 432. And then Carl, what he did is he took the grant out of there for that 667. So essentially that's what we're looking to take out of our cash savings to 4 of these projects. So.
yeah, and Are we voting on that tonight,
No,
or are we just
no,
having discussion?
No, because before we dispense any funds, that would come to you in the form of a resolution. This is kind of just laying out after going through this. So essentially what happened is we went through this, we went through our audit. I put together a bunch of questions. I covered it with the auditor, the lady Christina that was here, and her and I have had many conversations because I wanted to clarify things. And then we went in front of Dave Ferris from Ehlers because I wanted to make sure that I was getting the right information. And then I justified the accounts with Jane just this week to make sure that this wasn't fictitious numbers, it was actual cash in the bank, dispensable, touchable, feel-good money that either would be from the general fund on page 9 or the utility on page 14. And then we clarified all the funds, so we know that we can actually take that money and use it, and it's not restricted, not non-spendable, not restricted. So
Yeah.
we have the funds. If we needed to go to the bank today for $667,447, we have those in discretionary funds that we could use. Now, some of them are assigned, which if you still have your book, the accompanying book, I didn't mark that page, I apologize for that. The general number is on page 9, which gives you, you go to page 9, the two numbers you need to address are on the lower right, 538 and 434. That gives you a total. That's total of the two funds that are on page, they are on page 39. So it's a total of $973,000 that is available if we so choose to put towards projects like this. Some of them are assigned, so what does that mean? Does that mean we can't use it? No. It means that we have them in the same checkbook as any other money, but they're designated for this account. So as money comes back in through assessments, we replenish these funds and then we can still take money out for assigned projects. There's always gonna be a buffer in there. The money that we're looking to take, that 667, is also gonna be remaining in that fund. Because we've essentially be taking about half of what we have. There's always gonna be working fund. We always have backup funds. We have water and sewer funds. We have,
Worst case scenario is, we go out and get a loan, but then we'll have the interest. I think what I'm trying to show here is if we self-fund, we're essentially gonna get our downtown paid for free. But if we don't self-fund, we're gonna be giving the bankers that money we were gonna use for downtown. So,
And why I asked the question earlier, if we had this, was because that was one of the things Ellers had recommended.
Yes.
We had, and I didn't know whether we had one or not, so thank you for giving this. So by doing this self-funding, we're well within this
Yes.
policy.
yes.
And
Because
does it-
what we presented to you and what you see, we have twofold in other accounts, and it's all accounts. It's not assigned or unassigned, it's all accounts. So
Okay.
it's total liquid cash is 30 to 35%.
Okay, and then the other question I had was, we get a rating, correct, through?
Correct.
Okay, does self-funding bring our available amount down to a point where it would change our rating?
Currently, we don't have a rating,
We don't have a
okay?
rating.
Because the village has never gone out for a rating.
Okay.
Okay, so the only time a rating matters is when you borrow money.
Yeah,
We're basically doing that for ourselves now.
okay,
If we ran into a pinch here, we would just spend from any fund that we currently have first before we would need to go to get a rate or get a loan.
okay.
That's the negative side of this, and I was gonna address that. If we had to get a loan by dispensing these funds, it would put us in a tougher position to get a loan.
Okay.
We wouldn't get the best interest rate. However, we do have $6 million. We are well below our legal carrying load of debt. So we could borrow probably $6 million right now if we had to. So that's a positive. This would be a negative.
Okay.
I can't fathom with our accounts payable what could go wrong that would, unless half the town doesn't pay their tax bill.
Have we ever had a rating at all? Have we ever? Just curious if just we stopped doing it or if it was?
No, not that I'm aware.
Yeah.
I
okay.
honestly, having worked in Delafield, population 10,000, they did it, but they also borrowed $1 million annually
Yeah.
for road repair. Sheboygan, coming from Sheboygan, obviously they did.
I love the idea of self-funding. I just want to make sure it doesn't hurt us you know, running on a rating, but we're not, yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Sean's
When
looking-
we need it.
Yeah, when we need it.
No,
Like,
no, keep in mind,
we have
okay,
something
so
big
the
to have.
next
That's the whole-
caveat, the next caveat here is anything major that would happen to the village would come on the utility side. Okay, so that's the next yellow section here, whereas the 667 that we're looking for would come out of the general fund from the village. The next two projects down below, which total 37, and then the mini excavator, which we're looking for a 55. And then the Pine Street project that's not listed on here will total about 227. That would come from the utility. Carl's budget at the utility also is north of $1 million. So worst case scenario, if we really ran into a pinch, we could borrow from the utility like we do in the TIDS to pay general funds. And then it just becomes more of an accounting issue, more of an auditing issue. We're still, even with these projects, totaling 227 and 667, so we're coming to you looking around right around $900,000. We still have better than from my calculations, $1.7 million of money in funds that could be used if we get into a pinch. So we're far and below, not even near exceeding what is required.
Carl, how expensive was the tornado for the village?
That's one.
The tornado, that was an unexpected, it was a huge.
We
hit to
actually,
utilities.
due to quick thinking department heads and good tracking, we actually broke even. Might
We
even
received
came
a
out
grant,
ahead.
didn't we?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, we did all right.
okay.
I'm not gonna try to have a tornado for a revenue
Yeah.
source, Julie.
No, I'm just saying, like, worst case scenario.
What else could
She's
we
That was
looking
something
at
that-
unexpected expenses, right?
A
Natural
really
disaster
unexpected
could go out there.
expense. One day it's sunny and beautiful
Well-
outside, the next day we have trees all over the village.
You know,
So-
I think we spent close to 60, 70,000, right, Bob, somewhere in that range? And we recouped every dime of that,
Okay.
plus grants.
But
So,
I think it's even public safety, that affected, but I think that was kind of headed by public safety at that time.
getting back to what David
Okay,
was talking about, utilities sitting on about, 1 million, we should have 1,200,000 in the bank account at the end of the year. Probably 1,100,000 by the time I finish paying off Pine Street. But getting back to these, graphs, the first one is for the Public Works storage shed, Black Harbor Lake District storage shed. They've agreed, they voted at their board meeting to, take that grant money that David got them for, the weed harvester and put that towards this much needed storage shed. So it would be an initial outlay from, the utility savings account of 37.5. I'm showing 37.5 as unrecoverable because I don't have any other source to repay that back. We can talk about interest, but there would be interest there if we went out and got a loan for a storage shed or a small house. So probably not as significant as the other projects. The Public Works mini excavator, that one is about 65,000 immediately out of pocket. I have $10,000 as equipment auction. We'd auction off our antique backhoe. It's worth anywhere from between 10 and 20,000 because of the hours on it. It's just antiquated for what we do. So we've been after or wish listing a mini excavator for about 10 years now, and we found a model that we'd like to go ahead and purchase. Anyways, that would be unrecoverable as well. When I say unrecoverable, it would be cash out of pocket, and I don't have any other way to make it up, except for when we get to budget time next year, I want to put it in the budget for next year for paying off the 2016 A bond. That's Pine Street Sewer and the screw press. Like I said, the savings account should have over 1.1 million by this time next year. I'm recommending that we take 200,000 of that and pay off that screw press, and we'll save $55,000 in interest. And essentially, we're going to get a mini excavator for free instead of the bank getting their money. Now, what's not being shown is we have sewer depreciation funds of 150,000. We have equipment replacement fund that you had mentioned earlier. That's got 283,000 in it, and we have revenue bond reserves of $100,000. That doesn't account for the 1.1 million.
And we also
So
have-
utilities in good shape. We're in good shape, and we're in good enough shape. We're going to continue to do our yearly projects and putting money away in case we got to buy this expensive piece of equipment down the road. But if we do have to buy a $500,000 machine 5 years from now, the utility can help pay for it, and even TID 3 can help pay for it, because TID 3 is identified as one of the projects, equipment at the wastewater plant. If, you know, if the rules change or the demand on the wastewater plant changes, which, with the EPA changing their, tightening up their rules, we can take TID 3 money to help pay for that machine as well. So I have no idea what they cost. That's for somebody else to worry about, I think. But the utility's in good shape. Like I said, unfortunately, we're gonna have the rates we have for the next, till 2028, I believe, or 2030, when the plant's paid for. But what I'd like to do is go ahead and buy that mini excavator. We looked at 3 different models, a Cat, a Komatsu, and a Takeuchi. The Takeuchi is, by people that use them, is rated as probably the best one out there.
So-
They almost run flawlessly.
We do have quotes here, I didn't make copies for everybody, but we did get competitive quotes for all of them. We want to take the recommendation of Chris Schultz, who's our lead operator. He's made his recommendation. It's actually the cheapest model of the 3. They all, aside, you know, from what Carl has on the bottom here, by selling outright, we're looking at about a $55,000 purchase. Not sure if we want to actually put it on a resolution. Time is kind of the essence. This is also something that came up. We're looking for the good graces of the group to go ahead and purchase this, because our next meeting's in August. This piece of equipment in the last week could have been used 5 times,
Yep.
easily.
So the
We plan
agenda
on
says
using it.
discussion. I mean, are we even able to, I mean, how does that work? It just says discussion. Are we able to do
No.
anything?
No,
No.
no.
So, what are we doing now? I mean, are we leasing equipment, renting it?
We don't have it.
Well, so.
We're contracting.
We're contracting.
Every time you open up a water box, what, $1,200 or?
Yeah, just simple excavation in yards. We can't do any of our own ditching, we gotta go with the county.
Okay.
We can't do curb box repairs. We wouldn't use it for water main breaks, we're just not set up for that. You need heavier equipment, you know, jackhammers, that kind of stuff. But just general work that your government workers do. A mini excavator would work circles around a real backhoe, so.
Okay, so.
There's about a 1-month lead time on these on the equipment.
So we're paying, either lease or contract to have
Correct.
somebody else do this right now?
Correct.
And how much are we forking out a year to do that?
Well, we've had 3 curb boxes in the last month.
I mean, if we're, you know,
If you're looking at it from that perspective, you're not gonna add the numbers up. This is gonna allow us to do our job and allow us to do it better. I'm not
Okay.
gonna sit here and say, I'm gonna save this money by buying this machine. This
Okay.
machine's gonna allow us to do a better job for the taxpayers.
Well, I'm not, that's where I was starting was, you know, what are we currently paying? And my follow-up would be, if you could do everything that you wanted to do, meaning that you had this right here, what would we be paying more to lease it or, than what we're paying to buy it? So if you had carte blanche and you could
Yeah,
hire
I
a
know what
contractor
you're
to do
saying.
this stuff whenever you
No,
wanted.
I'm more of a
which-
purchaser kind of person.
Yeah,
We leased to own, the last time I bought something, we leased to own squad cars. Being the government, I don't like to lease. It's better to buy. You know, we've got a project up at Otto Miller, we wanna install the new electrical for the light poles. You know, you're looking at, we were quoted $23,000. We figure half of that was just labor and the equipment they used to excavate it, so.
so you're paying for an operator and rental of the equipment.
Yeah, so.
And then how long does this?
It might take a few years to make our money back, but beyond that, we can go out to Lake Street and take care of that ditch those people have issues with. Instead of me calling the county, I can't get the county to come in for less than $1,000 to do something somewhere, whether it's in the industrial park, whether it's over on Lake Street, whether it's in the ballpark. You know, we want to do ditching out there. We want to do ditching over here, our backhoe's not set up for that.
This might sound like an off-the-wall question about this, and just because I'm thinking, because now, if you're doing the work that normally the county would do or anything, we don't need to have any separate kind of liability or anything, because
Okay.
you're dealing with possible gas lines and electrical, buried cable, or,
Yeah, we deal with that kind of stuff on a daily basis.
so we don't need anything, there's nothing special.
Everything's, like Lynn's yard is located, so essentially anytime you go on Earth, you gotta locate anyway.
Yeah,
Yeah.
So
okay.
And we do the locating for our stuff.
It just might be an off-the-wall question, but
Yeah.
it's just one of those things where, like, the county's coming in and doing it, then they're liable for if they bust a gas line and things blow up. Well, what happens in Horton?
Yeah.
Long story short, FOB freight on equipment like this puts you out a month. So
Yeah.
we're basically asking for graces so we can get it
Yeah.
rolling. So then in August 1, we can put our actual sales commitment in front of you for your approval.
What's the life expectancy of the equipment?
With proper maintenance,
Yeah.
I own a Mini. I'm a third owner because I had a construction and maintenance. Mine's 12 years old.
Okay.
So, and mine's put a lot more hours on it than this.
So you're
We
more
probably
than,
got one of the best mechanics any municipality has.
so what you're saying is you're more than gonna make up the cost of this,
Absolutely.
right?
Yeah.
I think it'll be half paid for this year.
Or our backhoe's from the 80s. Almost every piece of equipment Public Works has is ancient. I'm not gonna go there.
Well,
85.
Cable's newer, yeah.
It's 85.
But the smaller stuff, yeah.
So you just need us to
I get hand-me-downs.
Well, we were kind of looking
Trucks.
informally, Bob says we can't, I understand that, we don't have a resolution to
Yeah.
purchase this, but we're kind of looking for the permission to go ahead and,
Discussion.
Yeah,
it's a
okay.
discussion, so we want to get that go ahead, it's a month lead time, because if we do this in August, that puts us in Labor Day. We want to be digging earth with this first thing in August, when the baseball season's over, that lighting project, I'm gonna trump Carl, I'm gonna say 75% of that bid is gonna be labor versus 50% of it. That's the unfortunate side. Right now, you can't find operators and equipment. They're throwing bids out that are stupid because, well, if they take it, we're gonna get paid. Because nobody can find workers.
so we're
And
not,
again, these savings and interest for paying off that loan early next year will pay for this machine outright. So,
so we're not breaking any rules, what are our options left?
Well, I think if they, what they're looking for is direction, so it, I guess, does anybody have any concerns if they were to pursue this, I guess? But here come, let's see, we're not meeting till August.
August 1.
Right,
Yeah,
That's why we'd have a
That's the
resolution, but we'd
problem.
have all,
yeah,
we'd have
I
all
just
the
don't wanna
official,
break any meetings laws.
we would have the official paperwork and everything for the purchase in front of you. Because
Is it
these are, like I
possible
said, these
to-
are estimates, but by the time you actually order a piece of equipment, we wouldn't have to pay for it. We were basically putting ourselves out for an order, but there's no payment given until delivery, obviously,
Yeah,
so
We'd still have the option to return it at that point.
technically, yes.
yeah,
So I think that's what you want to do.
still put it on that agenda, but, for the blessing, but get the head nods now.
Yes.
Is anybody
Okay.
shaking their head? I'm nodding my head, but
we've kind of done that in the
Sounds
past.
like
we're nodding.
Yeah.
we're nodding.
Head
Researching.
It's not to
Yeah.
break any open meetings laws.
No,
well,
but if anybody has any, objections to them proceeding in that manner, is to put it on an August vote, then speak now.
Again, I think with David's financial creativity and the healthiness of our savings accounts, that we're gonna end up getting this machine for free if we just mind our P's and Q's and pay off our debt.
Are there any major projects, like from other department heads, like, Chief, are you looking at any kind of major
That's
expenses?
my next bullet point, Julie.
Okay, never mind. Well, I'm just trying to tell you, so we're, earmarking this
Yeah.
money, earmarking this
Yep.
money, and I
Yep.
just wanna make sure that we're not,
I talked to Chris. Chris is looking at a squad purchase next year to keep in rotation with her current fleet. It's time to, we're gonna pay off 17, so I believe her note's dropping off next month, Chris, right?
I believe so.
For the 2017, it'll be paid off next month, so it puts us, next year would be capital improvements of a squad purchase for Chris. Other projects that we've been working on, now Parker Heights, if that land development happens, having been in the shoes of a developer, I'm basically setting that limit for the village at 35 grand, not to exceed incentives for that land. To me, if we gotta pay more than that, it's not worth it. It'd be better off just sitting idle. Obviously, that would come to you for your approval. The only other project that we've looked at or have been working on in the cemetery is to take down the white storage facility on the corner of north,
It would be the east entrance there by the,
that white building that's kind of falling apart, that's decrepit. It's the old storage, the body storage facility. We want to do away with that. Nathan and Carl have been looking at columbariums,
Which cemetery?
right in right in the corner when you come off of M and you go north on M.
Okay.
It's like
Yeah.
a
Just a
concrete.
white
Okay.
block.
It's essentially an underground storage facility, so when they didn't open the ground up in winter, they would put the bodies in there until spring when they could bury them properly. That's how they stored them back in the day. So the building's essentially, it's an eyesore, it's falling apart, it's an eyesore that needs to get taken down for safety. So essentially, new trend is columbariums, which is essentially building a concrete platform, and you take your urn and you put it in a mausoleum type storage facility, you put a bench there and you can go visit your loved one. Essentially you're putting, and that's kind of a new trend. People don't want to waste space in the ground for an urn. So they're buying a storage facility, they can put their urn in a small scale mausoleum.
Okay.
So
We
So
we
you're not
might.
looking at taking it, you're gonna fill it in.
So
We're gonna build a
put up
concrete
retaining
platform.
wall, or we gotta do something, it needs to come down, the
yeah,
concrete roof.
it's
is-
built into the hill, so we'd have to put a retaining wall and make a platform so we can eventually set one of these units on top of it. So that might be a $25,000 expenditure. Other than that, next year's, besides Carl's routine maintenance of the roads, we don't have a Grandview, we don't have a Brookwood, we don't have, our next major road expenditure potentially would be Warner Street to repair. But that would be on a something we'd ask the school system to potentially co-op with us, the village. That would be from Main Street all the way up to, the village hall.
And the Nash one coming up, that's county,
That's
correct?
county
Yeah.
funded.
Yeah.
July 1st, that's in my administrative report here also. We got notice of that today. We're gonna start in July on that, July 1.
Yeah, Warren Street's 2021, so.
So yeah, we did address any capital for next year if we'd be robbing our funding, and we just don't see it happening, so. But again, any projects like Grandview, we're gonna put it in front of you for approval before we would dispense any funds. We just wanted to, this was these discussion, the post-audit discussion to really let you know that, hey, we're working into the future here and that we're working on the capital planning, and then this is a very viable option moving forward rather than going out for a gold bond. It makes sense to use our own funds that haven't been used to save money, and that's gonna set us up better for the next 2 years. We've even looked as far as next year, potentially paying off the fire loan, the firehouse loan. That's an option. It's gonna be close. So not only can we pay it down, potentially pay down the screw press, but also the firehouse next year out of our general fund. So if we can do away with 2 major expenditures, that's a win. That sets us up for when we need to borrow money going into 2024, if they actually build that bypass, that we can do what we need to do downtown. And that's really give it a new face. So,
Pay cash for it.
and pay cash.
I think that's what Hortoni does on all of
That's what I
That
was
is
just gonna say,
what
what do you think
Hortonia
this is,
is.
Very
Laconia?
self-funded.
Yes. Can I entertain any
Little
questions
jealous of
on financials? I know we kind of drove a lot on here, so.
Nothing? So did we cover
We are.
everything?
Yeah.
The
We're on-
excavator and
we're
the
on-
trailer?
yeah.
So
Yep,
basically,
absolutely, yes,
yeah.
ma'am.
We're then to I, which is any other miscellaneous topics for future discussion. Does anyone have any?
All I'll say is if anybody wants to talk financials, please do not hesitate. Come in, I will be more than happy to take you step by step. This book I know inside and out now. So, which is also, I'll not say enough good things about Dave Ferris and then also our auditors, because she did help answer a lot of questions, so.
Sean, this is where you can bring that up.
Or I can bring it up.
Well, if
Sure.
you want to.
We were discussing, I think, last meeting, and, when you were showing the speed lights, some of the issues with, speeding, especially on Mill and Bath Street, and that, during the bypass times when the bridge was getting repaired, we had put in, a second set of stop signs on that intersection. And, I would ask that we consider removing one set of the stop signs and stop making it a 4-way stop and make it back to a 2-way stop, to help alleviate the speeding down that road. Because people would be forced to stop knowing that the other cross traffic isn't.
Yeah, so Carl and I had talked about this when I first
Jim
came
put
here.
you up
but-
to-
No, I live on that
Actually,
road.
she lives on the
Which
corner.
one, you want Bath Street
I
open
would
back
like-
up?
Yes.
Yeah,
We can do that.
I didn't prompt her.
That was
So-
I think at the time, it was a board recommendation. I don't think we voted on it or anything. It was just, and then, I think, I had a resident or two ask if we keep it up and nobody seemed to care, so we kept it up. But if you guys, just a head nod, I mean, we don't have to vote on it, but if you'd like Bath Street open back up, I can certainly take them out.
I think we need to make sure that we're notifying people of some, or put some sort of signage there, because it's gonna be a
Flags.
change,
Flags.
Flags,
so.
flags are very effective.
Put the flags on Mill
On
Street.
We can, we'll
Take
make sure
down
we
the
put something on
four-way.
Facebook.
Okay.
Let me know before you do it, so we can put something on Facebook.
All
Yeah.
right.
We
Do you
got
have
lots
to
of
put
friends
something
after
up
our
on the other
state
sign
thing.
says the
It's a
cross
two-way
traffic doesn't
stop
stop
now, yeah,
anymore?
something.
That was very popular.
That kind of thing.
I don't think we're supposed to, I think this is for
no,
next
I just-
agenda,
that's
yeah.
for next
Future.
agenda.
Yeah.
Okay.
We should
Actually,
put
I've
it
got
on
the
the
authority
next-
to do it. It doesn't need to be on the agenda. I
It
can-
doesn't need to be on an
On
agenda.
board?
Yeah, I can do
On
signage.
ordinance?
No. The ordinance gives me a discretion on signage like that, the director of public works.
Okay.
So, I like my job, so I'll keep you happy.
So that would fall under other miscellaneous topics then. So not-
But, yeah, but point well taken here. We don't want to get beyond topics.
They're on both sides.
Okay.
Because right now people fly through it knowing that the cross
Everybody-
traffic
yeah,
has
they're-
to stop.
Sure. So is there
They're
anything
hoping that the other.
else that we want in a future agenda? If not, we'll move to 9, report of village officials, 8, administrator.
Take one down, pass it around. Just so you know, it's already on my calendar and I'll confer with Jane, but the July 4th notice will go out the week prior for the cancellation. We do have to post a cancellation notice for July 4th as well as July 18th. So those will be canceled properly. I'm stealing a lot of Carl's thunder on here. So the first couple bullet points are just updates. Brookwood Drive curb and gutter is installed. Carl and I were out early this morning. They're also grading all the side lots, so that road is really starting to develop into what looks like a roadway. Taking shape, looks great. A lot of the residents had concerns about a lot of the pitch to the drive to the curb after grading today. A lot of those have been alleviated. We're working with MCC. They need to still do some cleanup on the Parker side where the lots are created. There is some road rubbish in there, trees and stuff that were cut. I think by another week or so, you're gonna have pretty much ready for a paving over there. Anybody who's driven on Grandview also is well underway. I would say the first city block. You were out there at 3 o'clock today. They did do their first road test today. As bad as that road was, the base is actually in really good shape. They found some water, but aside from that, it's sitting in really, really good shape over there.
Yeah.
So, Pine Street has been built up. Jeannie, we apologize for the inconvenience. The block by Jeannie's house, they ran into nothing but mud, so that tells you there was no base there. But that grading and the repaving is to be determined. That also coincides with all the paving behind the sports bar, as well as the alleyways behind the bars off of Main Street. So that'll all be done at the same time. That's pretty much probably a month out.
Yeah, there was some concern downtown because I wasn't contacting other bar owners about paving their properties. But our bid is specific about when I asked them to continue with their unit pricing for paving, it was for a machine going in a straight line with one truck, no personnel raking, extra labor, jockeying it around under people's stairways or decks or stuff like that. So I didn't entertain any of that idea. If we couldn't get the machine in there and go in a straight line and lay this stuff down at $70 a ton, I'm not even gonna entertain the idea of it. So I didn't go out and seek, the hardtails or the Dr. Sells. That's all outside the scope of what our bid package was for unit pricing. And just didn't even go there, just in case somebody complains. The only reason we're doing behind Otter Creek is, again, it's straight line. It's a public benefit because of the public parks back there. We all share in those parking areas. So again, if anybody has any complaints, I made a decision to just stick with straight line paving. Anything else is I don't have time for, so that's it.
The Highway M project, as we said a little earlier, we did get notice from the county, so they're targeting a July 1 start date. They're gonna use Oak Street as the bypass road, So when they will have full closures on North Nash Street, so Oak Street will be the bypass road off of Highway 15 to get north onto County Trunk M. We've also seen we have quite a mulch pile by the Gilbert's Grocery Store. That area has been brushed. That's not only the brush from that site, it's also from all the Grandview. So they did haul all the brush off of Grandview. That's what's created that pile of mulch. Carl and I have pinpointed a significant amount of projects that we want to use that mulch for, but there's going to be plenty left for residents. At that point, we'll open it up and we'll allow residents to come grab.
Yeah.
So I'm guessing it'd be.
We'll probably keep it on that side for a while.
Yeah, it's just easier to get it off the town drive. They chipped it twice, so it's fairly good material. We were on site there today also. Carl's also gonna work with Chris Scholes to kind of make that lot a little more presentable, where we feel we have a fairly good grab on a potential purchaser. We wanna make it presentable for business, make sure that Jeff is okay at Gilbert's too. We don't wanna anger him, so. Other than that, I had no external meetings this week, and I learned all about inclusivity for your municipality in my webinar this week. So we're going to be an inclusive group here at the Village of Portville. That's all I have.
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
So you said we're not meeting again until August, so is the 18th, is that canceled?
That's what I was,
Yes, because we would only have 3 out of the 7 here.
okay,
Oh,
yeah, because I won't be here.
okay.
Can-
All right, I just want to make sure, because
I'm sorry. I
No.
thought everybody was aware of that.
No.
I wasn't aware
I
of
had no
it either.
idea.
Yeah, so at that point, we'd have to dial to have any official votes, we'd have to dial in.
Okay.
We'd have to have somebody on board and back up.
Yeah, unless you wanna cancel vacations, you can do that.
No, no.
Okay.
I'm not going on vacation that week.
I like Cub Scouts, yeah.
My daughter's at MSOE that week, but no.
Talking to Jeff about parents.
No, I just
Yeah,
didn't
yeah.
know.
Yeah.
so.
That's what happened, it was a quorum.
Okay. I will-
Also, what Carl just said too, we met with Jeff Gilbert today. So essentially, we have an option and we're gonna present to him a redraw, a certified map. He is willing to give frontage up if need be to accommodate that commercial business in front. So he's also very open to conjoining parking lots. He feels it'll be advantageous for his business, so we're working on all the proper channels in order to make sure that it's the right fit for that area. So he's on board. He likes to see the development. He's ecstatic that you can see his business from the highway better now. So, and we did question, I asked him flat out about Dollar General, if there's been any issues. Hadn't seen a drop in his business since they've opened. So everything's good over there. That's all I have, unless there's questions from me.
We'll then move to B, clerk treasurer.
The only thing I have is that someone has come in and taken out paperwork for the old Heroes Park. They haven't turned it in yet, but they've taken out the papers, so somebody's interested. And I let them know that we would not be having a meeting in July, so they were a little disappointed, but. And I talked to Dave about it, and there's nothing we're going to do, I mean, really. So,
Well, first of all, they gotta turn the paperwork in too.
Yeah,
So,
Right,
it's
they have to
gotta
turn
be
the paperwork.
published.
yeah, yeah,
Right.
there's some time requirements there. I mean, it's
Yep.
unfortunate, but that's
Yeah, they're about a month out from the time they,
all of that. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, 15-day minimal waiting, so.
that's all I have.
We will then move on to C, director of public works.
I'm gonna jump back over to Brookwood. I know David had talked about the progress that's being made out there. The fine grading, that's where they bring the grader in and sculpt the the base. They're gonna start that next week, and I imagine they're gonna jump from there over to Pine Street and get that graded out. We're gonna take about 6 to 10 loads of that grindings down to Alonzo Park and beef up that back parking lot. And the rest is gonna go down to the compost site so we can upgrade the road going back in there. They're almost done with the fine grade or rough grading of the right of way. I think David had talked about that as well. As soon as they're done with that, which they should be tomorrow, then we'll give a green light to We Energies for running natural gas down the right of way there on the south side of
Brookwood.
future Brookwood. And we're also putting a street light in on the corner of Brookwood and is it Gabriel?
Gabriel.
Yeah, I should know that. And Memorial Square, I don't know if you noticed, but We got the bike rack installed, that was the one made by the high school. Beautiful bike rack, probably was the most beautiful bike rack I've ever seen. We've got a new garbage can down there, and we're still working on trying to get Claire to do the stenciling for the compass. And here later, as soon as we get caught up with other stuff, we're gonna build a custom picnic table, and probably get some more furniture in there, and some more lighting. But it's coming around. And I suppose as soon as they're done with fine grading, I imagine they'll be in to pave Brookwood and Pine Street and the alleyways. So that's about all I have.
What do you mean by custom picnic table, Carl?
Well, because where we're putting the picnic table, it's not flat.
Oh, okay.
So it's gonna be,
One leg
it's gonna have longer legs than the other.
6 inches approximately.
But it's gonna be permanently mounted, so
Yeah.
nobody will notice it.
The reason I asked is there are some that you can build that are ADA, so someone that uses
Yeah.
a wheelchair could still,
Yeah,
so that might be an idea.
yeah, what we'd probably do is 3 sides of one ADA side.
Yeah, okay, great.
Probably, as you know, Chris Schultz, he's in charge of parks, baseball fields and all that good stuff. He built all the railing for down there and over on the other side of the dam, so he's really good at metal work and getting it all welded up. So whatever he does is gonna turn out beautiful, I know that, so.
Carl, what are you putting in at the corner of Gabriel and Houston?
Just this one street light.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I got you.
I figured we have one down where Brian Rassak's house.
Yep.
And not to inundate the area with a whole bunch of light pollution, I figured we needed one down at Gabriel and Brookwood.
We also did get a temporary limited easement from that family on the corner of Gabriel to access their property. We wanted to shave that corner down because we had a pretty good home.
Yeah.
And then we did allow them, they had one tree that they wanted to save, and Carl and I said we would address 2 more for them. Every other house on that thoroughfare to the back, the people on Herbert Drive looking back will have other houses and residents. They don't have any block to the Commonwealth project, so we decided we would put 2 trees on their side lot to help defer the sight line to the Commonwealth project.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
And part of that is we plan on, I'm not sure if we're gonna do 100% evergreens on the north side of the road in the right of way, or if we're gonna go like maple, evergreen on the north side of Brookwood. So that should, not that we're trying to hide anything, but that should help.
No, I understand the sight line.
Yeah.
And the side, I was just over there the other day. The side of the new Brookwood area nearest to Gabriel, there's a significant drop. So you're looking at the top of the first level door.
correct.
Right, from there. So it would take significantly less height to cover
Yeah.
the sight line there, but on the side closest to,
Brian's,
what's it?
Brian Rassak's house.
Yeah, by Brian Ratzak's house, it gets close, the buildings go up and up,
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
ground drops down, and then you're seeing everything.
Yeah, Brian was trying to visualize it, and I was trying to tell him, well, it's high on this end, it's low on that end, but we always did have intentions of putting trees through there,
Yeah.
and not necessarily for any particular reason, but we think it would look nice.
Yeah.
Again,
Well, I think it would help, with the value of the properties that are across the street, because,
Yeah.
I mean, in my opinion, is nobody's gonna wanna put a $250,000 home right across the street from Section 8 housing. I mean, so, but if you can cover that sight line, you know, and
And we
minimize it.
pinpointed evergreen too with the number of kids in the complex, because essentially we don't wanna put a brand new tree in there and have kids climbing in it. Whereas if you put evergreens in it, it's gonna deter them from climbing and potentially wrecking these trees. So,
Yeah, not that we're trying to build a hedge, but we're trying to,
Hedges aren't bad. I got one between my backyard and my neighbor's backyard, and it blocks
they
out.
work nice.
It blocks out the road traffic, it blocks out the foot I mean, I can see my neighbors barely when they're walking, but if they're standing still, I couldn't tell they were
One
back.
nice thing about evergreens is you have that blocking all year long, you know, whereas,
Yeah.
a hedge or,
And they grow fast.
For
yeah.
an extended period of time, and then
So,
they die off in the bottom, but that's.
Aside from the 20 grand payment, or 22 grand payment to, we're taking a long time here. Aside from the 22 grand payment to Commonwealth, we'll probably have another couple grand in trees. But like I said, the TID's healthy, it'll be healthy, it'll pay for downtown, so. Get sidetracked.
I like to hear that.
Any
My neighbors
questions?
be a little happier too.
Any more questions for Carl? If not, we'll move to Chief of Police.
We are getting ready for National Night Out, which is gonna be August 6th, at the Commercial Club Park. We're just starting to secure different things like park itself, the band, or the DJ, I'm sorry, and the bouncy house. And then, it's a good time for us to work on it now that the SROs are out of school and stuff like that, so. And speaking of the SRO, we, were awarded the SRO contract for the Greenville school, for the 3 Greenville schools. So, yay Hortonville, yeah. Didn't know how it was gonna go, but it went well. We had a 7-0 vote, so. That's all I have.
Any questions for Chris?
Are they deputized then, or not?
No, Outagamie County will not give deputy cards.
Okay.
I don't think it played in their favor.
The library director is absent.
She gave me just a couple things. 770 participants signed up for summer programming, which is a great number. 20 baskets are on display with 2 more being donated. There were 16 last year, so they're up by 6 for donations. 983 people total signed up for summer reading program in 2018, so they're feeling like they're way ahead of last year, so things are going good.
Good.
And we'll be participating in the National Night Out too. Friends of the library and the library will be there.
F is attorney.
No, I think no news is good news.
Okay. We have no building permit report in the packet.
I did talk to Paul yesterday, happy to announce we did get, word is we're allowed to have 2 more new builds as of next week.
Wow.
So 2 more new construction coming in.
10, communications and miscellaneous business. A Black Otter Lake District news.
I see they're out there harvesting, right? Now, finally? Yeah.
I believe so, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so that must be going.
And the next meeting is in July 17th, I think.
Yes. Wednesday the 17th. Yep.
B is Hortonville Hortonia Fire District news.
Nothing.
Nothing. Gold Cross ambulance run report is not in the packet. And Hortonville Civic Club, Peter is absent. Senior Activities Committee meeting.
Next Thursday, a week from today is our next meeting. So no updates right now.
And any comments and suggestions from citizens present? There are none,
Oliver's up.
unless Oliver has something to say.
You have to meet the governor today. That was kind of a big deal, so.
And 12 is adjournment.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. We are adjourned.